This month's theme is discovering the ineffable. If we were at the center right now, I would be asking you, what's the definition of ineffable? What does it mean? Even I had to look up what the meaning was to make sure that I would talk about it correctly today. The word ineffable has been around since the 1300s, and it comes from Old French. And at that time, it meant unspeakable or unutterable. According to the dictionary, it means too great or extreme to express or describe in words. And it also means not to be uttered. It is the ineffable Hebrew name that Gentiles use as Jehovah or God. And according to the Hebrew beliefs and customs, the third commandment in the Bible dictates or states that you shall not take the Lord's name, God, in vain. Therefore, the name God is never, ever uttered, just to play it safe by the Hebrews, so that one doesn't slip up and say something they should not and then have to ask for forgiveness. Now, certainly as religious scientists, we are more than willing and able to say God, divine, spirit, creator. However, what most people are unwilling to talk about or unwilling to utter is their journey to find the deepest part within that is one with God. Charles Fillmore in The Revealing Word explains, when we identify ourselves with him as our indwelling Father, he seems to us to be personal. However, it is not in a personal sense, but in the universal identification of ourselves with him that we come into the God consciousness. The personal is limited, or God's consciousness is unlimited. Dr. Holmes, our founder, tells us that the mind we use is the mind of the universe. This is God in man. It is only through this mind that we understand anything. This mind in us is God speaking and God answering. Most of us are on our own personal journey to find God or to be internally closer to the divine. We do not, however, tend to share or utter our experience on our journeys to the spiritual deepening. It took me years to share part of my journey with others because I feared that people would not believe me, or they'd think I was crazy, or that I had made it up. Now, about 10 years ago, I went to a place called Medjugorje in Bosnia. It was a small group of ministers and practitioners that journeyed 24 hours to this far off land on the Mediterranean or near the Mediterranean. Now, if you're not Catholic, or been Catholic, you may have never heard of it. You see, the Mother Mary has began to appear to 6 young people between the ages of 10 and 16 in 1981, when Bosnia was still part of Yugoslavia and a very much communist country. Through the years, even to this day in 2020, she is appearing to these same individuals who are now basically in their 50s. Most of them only see her once a year, but one of the visionaries still sees her every month. And we were there during the visit when the Mary was to appear to this visionary. Now envision with me, if you will, an area that was about the size of our downtown park with 2 roads leading into it. And there were about 3,000 people from every country jammed into that area and on down the streets in hopes of seeing the visionary or hearing what the visionary would tell us she had heard. We waited jam-packed in, shoulder to shoulder, for her to appear. And there was a small roped off path that allowed her to walk up, being guarded by priests and volunteer guards, without others trying to touch her, because everyone wanted to touch her in hopes of the fact that they would receive a healing. And she would kneel and wait by this large cross that was close to where the children had seen the Mother Mary. Everyone fell silent. You could have heard a pin drop. A song was sung in Bosnian and a prayer began. And then there was silence, dead silence, while the visionary heard what Mary had to say. Now, during that silence, a woman's voice came to me. She only spoke 11 words, but those 11 words would change my life and make a profound difference on my spiritual journey. Her words were clear and piercing. If you don't open your heart, Eileen, we can't come in. I was stunned. Tears started to fill my eyes. Instinctively, I knew who the we were that she was talking about. This voice was telling me to stop being tough, stop being guarding myself, and to let love come in, to let a softness occur in my heart and in my life. As we walked back to the village, I began to doubt that I had really heard anything, and I wondered if it was genuinely real. We arrived at a restaurant, sat down for lunch, ordered our lunch, and then somebody began to talk about the woman that was screaming during the middle of the vision. And I was stunned. I said, "What are you talking about? What screaming women? Where?" Their response was that there had been a woman who was mentally challenged, and she had tried to attack the visionary with a knife, and the guard had taken her off to the side where she couldn't hurt herself or hurt anyone else. She was screaming the entire time. I had no idea that this had happened because I had not heard it at all. This confirmed for me that the voice had been real and the message I had received was indeed true. Sufis call this moment tayuba. It's when the heart turns to God and the soul begins its journey to return to the source, to return to the divine. Each and every one of us has unique spiritual journeys or returns to God. According to the Sufis, each person is born with a part of the divine love in the heart. And I interpret that to mean not only divine love, but their oneness with spirit as well. The special divine love, however, remains covered until the moment is right and the beloved ignites the mystery of light upon light, the awakening of the divine remembrance. According to Fran Grace, the author of The Power of Love, the light of the heart rises to God with longing, and this longing in turn attracts the divine light. Light within our heart is the same divine light we long for. We can't receive God if our heart is not open, willing, and ready to receive and give love. Just like the voice of Mother Mary spoke to me to tell me to open my heart, we as spiritual beings must be willing to listen to the inner voice that guides and directs us to go deeper in order to know spirit at a depth we have never even imagined. You see, when our heart is open, we overcome the idea that we are separate from others. We are separate from God. We are living in duality. We overcome that. When we're on our spiritual journey, we experience the mind in everything and everyone. In her book, 7 Paths to God, The Ways of the Mystic, Joan Borensinko writes about the holy moments in life. A mystic sees beyond the illusion of separation into the intricate web of life, in which all things are expressions of this single whole. You can call this web God, the Tao, the Great Spirit, the infinite mystery, Mother or Father, but it can be known only as love. We cannot find God in all things if our heart is not open and loving, not only towards others, but likewise loving ourselves. We have to be willing to go within to find the Spirit that has always been there. Remember, the sacred is not something else. God has always been with us. We just haven't always recognized it. Paul tells us that we cannot recognize our oneness because we are centered in the finite rather than the infinite. We tend to center our lives in the created rather than the creator. And why, you might ask, do we do this? Well, maybe it's because we can click on Amazon 24/7 and search for any item, and there it is. And if you order it and you are a Prime member, you can get it in 2 days, free of charge. We can't do that in our search for a greater relationship with Spirit. We have to create the journey and the path that we are on to be with God. We can't order it and have it instantly appear. There's God. We have to be willing and commit to that journey and commit ourselves. The Bible has many metaphors that are the result of human conditions. One of the metaphors is hard heart. For the ancient Hebrews, the heart was not simply associated with feeling and love and courage as it is today. Rather, the heart was part of the total human psyche. It included intellect and wisdom and perception. So just what did hard heart mean? If I could hear you, I would have you shout it out right now because I'm sure you already know. A hard heart was made of stone. It was closed or puffed up. Hard hearts are associated with intellectual incomprehension, according to Marcus Borg. It means one who does not hear or does not see. Think when you are not listening. The individual also with a hard heart lacks compassion. Our journey to deepen our relationship with the divine means having an open, soft, new heart. In Psalms 51:10, it is written, "Create in me a clean heart, O God, and put a new and right spirit within me." So just how does the heart open? How do we put a new love in our heart for this journey within? Sometimes it just happens. Other times it can be gradual or all of a sudden. Some folks seem more willing to open than others. That can be because of fear or anger or even bitterness. We have had an experience, I'm sure all of us, of being broken open by the loss of a friend or a family member to death, or because of despair that can happen, like the camp and the bear fires that have happened and are happening in our county. We can also find ourselves open to love and the divine through intentional spiritual discipline that nourishes our conscious relationship with God. It is practices like meditation, prayer, reading sacred books, and forgiveness that nudge us on our journey. All of these and more is in the essence are the sacraments. They are sacred practices. Now, if you came from the traditional Christian background, you're probably saying, "Are you crazy, Eileen? Sacraments are communion and baptism and marriage." In the early Christian church, however, sacraments were, which is comes from a Greek word that meant sacred, mystery, refers to any symbol or practice that has a spiritual function. Therefore, a sacrament is a practice that makes the sacred mystery accessible to you and me. And isn't God, in some respects, a sacred mystery to all of us? Joan Borensinko provided us with 7 paths to God. They bear repeating. Path 1 is earth and home. Are you able to see God in all things? Can you see the interconnectedness of all things? Native Americans are prime examples of individuals who honor God in all creation and the oneness of the world and the connectedness that we are. The next time you take a walk, go slowly and honor the oneness of your surroundings and express gratitude for all of it. Path 2 is creativity and abundance. Borensinko indicates the key to this path is generosity of spirit. This means we are secure with ourselves as we receive God and give to others. In our generosity, we encourage others to also bring forth their creative gifts. We all have a gift. It's our task to use it and then give it away. Path 3 is the passion to serve. When we serve the world and others, we become co-creators with God. The Hindus call karma yoga the path to God union through service. Remember Mother Teresa? This is exactly what she did. This too is the path of taking action. Path 4 is bridging earth and heaven. This is the way of devotion. When we see the eyes of the heart, we are worshiping God within each and every person that we see. Next time you're out, look for that eye of the heart in others. Path 5 is about discipline, ethics, and will. Jesus said, "Thy will be done, not mine." This path is about being kind and compassionate. In the Hindu philosophy, this path is a God union that has specific morals that preserve community, honor life, and lead to personal growth. Path 6 is opening the wisdom eye. It means using the methods of contemplation in order to experience transformation. This is the path of insight. This is where stillness and meditation comes in. Path 7 is the way of faith. Our faith determines oneness to spirit. Our faith and the nature of it develops and changes throughout our lifetime. We are changed by devastation that occurs in our life, as well as what we have discovered as we work through the various paths that call us closer to our oneness with God. On our journey of spiritual growth and to that place of the name that is not uttered, we discover our God union, our divine oneness. And it is filled with grace and kindness, compassion, and the gifts from Spirit that are made manifest in our life. So, however you choose to begin, whether it is meditation, prayer, service, surrender, or generosity, decide today, decide in this moment, if you haven't already, that your life will be fuller and richer in more ways than you can see if you begin this journey. Let go of your fears and begin. Not too long ago, a friend of mine forwarded a video to me about a little boy's search for God. And I wanted to share it with you today. It's just a short couple of minutes. So please, Macy, show the video that we have.
is a woman, Mom, and she has the most beautiful smile I've ever seen.
Why are you in such a good mood?
I just ate Twinkies in the park with God. He's much younger than I expected.
From the geniuses.
When the young boy, who was only a kindergartner at a Catholic school, was asked what he thought the message of that short video was, he responded with, "God is in everyone." If a 5-year-old can see and understand that, then isn't it time for all of us to drop our prejudice, our frustration with others, our fear of individuals in prisons, the homeless? Isn't it time for us to let it go and to see only spirit in everyone? There once was a man in India who spent his entire life with a basket sitting in front of him as he begged on a daily basis for food and money. One day he died, and the villagers came around him and decided that they didn't have enough money to be able to have him cremated, but they would bury him in that spot in which he had spent his entire life. And so as they began to dig up the area where he sat, they discovered a chest containing money, gold, and diamonds, more than enough for them to allow his body to be cremated and handled in an appropriate way for their customs. The sad part, however, was that if the beggar had only been willing to move, if the beggar had been willing to look beyond, below, and within himself, he could have been a rich man. As spiritual beings, we are here on our earthly walk to know deep within us that love, grace, and joy of God, and that too lives in everyone else. Our task ahead is to go within and discover what lies within our hearts in our union with God. This is the truth in my life, and this is the truth in yours, and so it is.